Bieber and Bondage, the pirate itself. I write this paper in good fun. Fun, of course, is etymologically linked not only to the concept of diversion, but to the concepts of cheating and hoaxing. The hoax itself lays out a crucial idea for engaging this shady and unseemly subject of social media distribution of celebrities grafted into pornographic collages. In particular, I will look at how the distribution of collages of Justin Bieber inserted into gay porn suggests the mutability of a public identity. In 2012, Bieber participated in his own internet hoax by reporting a laptop stolen. He or his handlers may have orchestrated the theft of the laptop to generate interest in his collaboration with Nicki Minaj. During the 3-day period of the hoax, he expressed concern his personal material might be released. And on cue, the Twitter user, @Gexwe, appeared and taunted him by threatening the release of private images. In the end, @Gexwe tweets a link to the Bieber-Minaj video. Later, in a tweeted confession, Bieber says, "Since I was 14, I have had a lot of things said about me, but today I get to be in on it." In the list of hoax story and images, he lists falsified nude pics as being one of the things he is frustrated with. This hoax demonstrates important elements for discussing the pornographic collages. The first element is Bieber's self-awareness that social media is susceptible to hoaxes. This hoax and the supposed taunts from @Gexwe created anticipation for release of nudes. This anticipation reveals the way that the hoax can create multiple possibilities for those who are willing to engage with it as potentially real. In one case, another anonymous person related an image purported to be a naked Bieber. Die-hard fans quickly contested the authenticity of the image based on their intimate knowledge of his nipples and belly button, but the image still circulates with the assertion that it shows Bieber and his Bieber conda. The hoax engendered an exchange of information through gossip. Gossip, of course, entices since it relates potential deviance, conflict, and scandal. Romantic or erotic urges are frequently the content, and these passions are framed as new or newly discovered. Bieber's hoax plays into all of these elements. However, the environment of social media further complicates the implications of gossip. In I'll Google It, Gossip, Queer Intimacies, and the Internet, Maria Francesca argues that the Internet blurs the distinction between confession and gossip, and between intimacy and publicity, two sets of parallel lines that have begun to bend toward one another. She contends performance of cyber gossip constitutes both a form of counter-publicity and a kind of counter-intimacy. Her assertion reflects an understanding that gossip was once an intimate, socially reinforcing act, but the Internet troubles the line between intimacies and publicness. The liminal space created by Internet gossip incubates the hoax, since the celebrity being gossiped about is often not in a closed social circle with the disseminators of information. The counter-publicity and counter-intimacy also indicate that many of the receivers of the gossip will not even be familiar with the public image of the person they are gossiping about. Bieber's hoax, as response to a variety of internet gossip, hoaxes, and rumors, seems understandable. Cinzia Colapinto and Eleonora Benici's study, The Presentations of Celebrity Personas in Everyday Twittering, reminds us that communities and individuals attempting to censor posts on the internet have found they tend to achieve the opposite effect, creating huge waves of negative publicity and accelerating the dissemination of the very information they're trying to suppress. Bieber does not try to suppress the media in this instance. He merely attempts to complicate it and turn it against itself. The willingness to entertain multiple exclusive potentialities of a public self reveals the other essential element of the hoax. The OED grudgingly admits it is probable that hoax is related to hocus, and from there it is a short jump to hocus pocus, and the connotation of the conjuring of magicians. To participate in a hoax, to create, to believe, to entertain it, requires a tacit conspiracy to engage with multiple potential realities. It is perhaps a willingness to accept our desires as authentic despite well-established evidence to the contrary. One collage distributed on Tumblr demonstrates this willingness to believe, despite the contrary evidence. In the image, cheap white wall paneling and striped cream curtains bisect the background. A nondescript black plane dominates the foreground. The decor indicates a cheap and impromptu porn set. Light blue sans serif fluttering blares Flaunt, a style magazine, which recently published a saucy photo shoot with Nick Jonas. At the top of the hoax image, smaller lighter blue lettering spells out Justin Bieber. The text flaunts the young man who has apparently been trussed and laid on the black plane. The young man would seem to be the young heartthrob. Some unknown producer released this original Bondage image into the churning chaos of the internet. A cursory internet search shows that a version of the image was posted on the Heavy Bondage blog on February 22nd, 2011, and on Firth Magazine, a humor blog, on September 11th, 2011. The same image faints yet fails at being both erotic and humorous. From these locations, it was transformed into a counterfeit cover for a style magazine, which might lend the image a forged credibility. Yet, it ended in the recycled and regurgitated image streams of Tumblr. The blog Mr. Twinnington testifies to the ambivalence some viewers feel towards this image and the potential identities. The blog posts an edited picture of Justin Bieber with a ball gag in his mouth, tied up, appearing all over my dash. I'm not sure how to feel about this. This uncertainty becomes dependent on the speed in which the image is read. When the viewer first glances the image, the bright blue ball gag placed beneath Bieber's pretty upper lip is supremely important. The gag occupies a central space in the composition. It beckons the eye to race over the reigning image. The ball gag seems to pinion the simulated reality of the image to the viewer's glance. Yet it is merely a focal point and not a punctum. In this vein, the This Isn't Bourgeois blog is willing, if uncertain, to express its belief in the image's veracity. Similarly, the Ich bin Goldfein Tumblr presents the image as authentic. At some level, these bloggers entertain a potential reality expressed through the image. But if one resists the temptation to merely glance and actually looks carefully beneath the black strap of the gag, the hoax is revealed. The collagists reveals themselves. This Bieber only exists because of the unauthorized imagination of an unknown hand. On further observation, one can see the lean jaw, bone, and chin do not match Bieber's dewy face. A shadow of coarse black stubble becomes obvious. It is too coarse for the young YouTube sensation come star, whose recent flirtation with an uneven and feathery mustache offers further proof of the falseness. The effect of the unseen hand reveals how public image is at the mercy of those who can repurpose it. To embrace the fluidity of cybernetic organization is to engage in a higher organization of public selves. It is to acknowledge that others too can transcend the mere boundaries of themselves, online by choice or indirect violence. That Bieber can be bound when he has never been bound is liberation of the self from the self through piracy. The lie of an image frees the subject from the rigors of consistent presentation of self. Bieber's image swims along eddies of desire and ridicule. The active Bieber seems aware of this by claiming only to do things for his believers. while at the same time admitting the futility of acting against his haters. And perhaps we can see the impulses of both fans and detractors in these images. Our recent tweet, which was quickly deleted, or which was another hoax, captures Bieber's awareness and frustration of this complexity. In this tweet, Bieber asserts that he is not dating his father. This act brings him into a realm of another accusation, incest. Typically, such gossip is powerful in its scintillation and shock value. Yet Bieber's 2012 nude serenade of his grandmother on Thanksgiving presents an image of a perhaps uncomfortably close family. A family photo of a teenage boy sitting on his young father's lap could easily be read within a homoerotic matrix. A collagist's edition of the broke straight boys logo does not feel forced. If one could recognize them, the attractive young men in a moment of familial intimacy could reasonably be understood to be a promotional still for an adult website. The ridicule and wish fulfillment elements are just below the surface, binding Bieber with the same conflicting impulses, if not the same collage technique, as the first image. In Freaks, Myths and Images of the Sea itself, Leslie Fiedler describes how the famous hoax of mermaids evolved from a type of pickled punk, namely fetuses whose legs are fused together, and mishmashed taxidermies, monkeys sewn to fishtails. These objects could never satisfy the audience's expectations, so in order to keep Marx happy, sideshows eventually hired young women to dress as mermaids and display themselves in tanks. Collages seem to have a similar impulse, digitally manipulating images to create homoerotically and homophobically sexualized Biebers to satisfy audience expectations. But despite their best efforts, an air of inauthenticity remains. Even in cyberspace, the veil of possibility can become thin. The viewers, as fools, react in such a way that makes us realize an innate truth of the world. Public image will undergo metamorphosis. If the actual Bieber would disdain these acts, it does not mean that his image would. Jokes, fantasy, and gossip might produce a character who would embrace them. A pocket of potential is preserved in the unmanaged and unmanageable image that speaks to the fact that a person may not know who they are or who they could be in the eyes of others. The public image and public persona requires a hard sell and sacrifice to gain an audience. For viewers, the need to have their attention grabbed is essential, for as Jean Baudrillard explains in The Ecstasy of Communication, if one reflects upon it, we exist only in the brief instance when we are seduced by whatever moves us, an object, a face, an idea, a word, a passion. Viewers find essential meaning in acts of consumption. To be aroused or amused by the bound Bieber is to gain a partial identity, just as in all acts of consumption. So inasmuch as the collages give Bieber potential identities, we too are so gifted.